This CCTV footage captured a 13-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy walking through the night. Nothing about the footage looks particularly odd. However, the events that took place after this footage would bring a community to its knees and make international news. We would like to send our condolences to the family and loved ones of Tristyn Bailey. "13-year-old Tristyn Bailey grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. She had a love for cheerleading and would go to practice regularly. She attended the Patriot Oaks Academy in what was more of an upmarket school for gifted teens. Tristyn was your typical American teenage girl, hanging out with friends, spending time on social media, and even starting to gain the attention of boys. Unfortunately, she would gain the wrong type of attention out of no fault of her own. Sunday, May 9th, 2021, Mother's Day. Tristyn Bailey's parents had woken up in the morning and started to make breakfast. When they went into Tristyn's room to call her for breakfast, she wasn't there. After calling out her name and looking everywhere, she was nowhere to be found. They immediately called the police and reported her missing. The police went straight to the media in the hopes that someone had some news on her whereabouts. Tristyn and her family lived in Durban Crossing, which had an exceptionally low crime rate. Children would freely play on the street, and there were never reports of a child missing. With such a close community of people, the news of a missing teenager spread through the community almost instantly. People were jumping to help in any way they could to find Tristyn, from making flyers to searching all over the neighborhood. This also caused many residents to check their camera footage in case they may have captured something. And as a matter of fact, one resident did capture what looked like Tristyn walking with another male on camera. Police were able to quickly identify the male walking with her as 14-year-old Aiden Fucci. They were captured walking down the road at 1:15 a.m. heading towards a wooded area. 3 hours or so later, Aiden is captured walking the opposite way from the wooded area. But he is alone. Tristyn's parents certainly didn't allow her out at that time of night, so it was presumed that she snuck out so she could go with Aiden. Investigators immediately went to Aiden's house to confront the teen. They advised him they were going to take him to the station for questioning. While in the back of the police cruiser, Aiden pulled out his phone and posted this to Snapchat.
We're having fun in a f***ing cop car.
Yep. Tristyn.
What's up, guys?
Yep.
Tristyn, if you f***ing walk out the damn...
When you see this in a month.
The footage and pictures went viral amongst the community and had people speculating if Aiden Fucci had something to do with the crime. While Aiden was being transported to the police department, they did a search of his bedroom. Inside, though, they found several pieces of clothing with blood on them, and disturbing satanic drawings including girls with mutilated limbs and genitals. Detectives asked Aiden why there was a 3-hour gap between the time he walked to the wooded area and then back home again. He claimed he was just walking around alone getting some fresh air and returned home around 3:30 a.m. Only 16 hours after she was reported missing, the tragic news was confirmed.
The County Sheriff's Department says the search for a missing Florida teenager has been called off after a body was found. 13-year-old Tristyn Bailey was reported missing around 10 Sunday morning. She was last seen around 1:15 that morning at the Durban Amenity Center. The search was called off.
A resident who was going on his daily jog came across the gruesome discovery of Tristyn's body. She was found in the wooded area Aiden was observed heading towards on the CCTV footage, near the cul-de-sac of Saddlestone Drive next to the lake. He notified authorities immediately, who descended to the area. At first glance, it was obvious that the girl had multiple stab wounds. Tristyn's parents confirmed that the body was that of their beloved daughter. Authorities began searching the nearby lake for the murder weapon, and after a long and exhaustive search, they were able to locate it. It was a small pocket knife that appeared to have the end of it bent and damaged slightly, which would come into play later in the investigation. The investigators now began to shift their focus back to Aiden. He had been sent to juvenile detention while the case was ongoing due to probable cause, and his first hearing was done via a Zoom conference call. Prosecutors advised that they were convinced that they had the right person, and if so, would prosecute Aiden as an adult. This meant for Aiden that if convicted, he would likely get a life sentence without parole. Investigators were convinced that Aiden had done this, but they had no motive as to why he would do it. They began to question some of his friends and acquaintances at school, and some of the stories they got were disturbing, to say the least. Aiden's girlfriend at the time, whose name has not been released due to being a minor, told police of a disturbing statement. The girlfriend told investigators that Aiden talked about death and killing a lot, and would pretend to stab her, and told her she'd be easy to kill while she slept. Aiden also told his girlfriend that he planned on killing someone within a month, which was only a week before the event with Tristan took place. Other classmates had told police that Aiden had made statements such as, "I'm going to prison one day," and "I want to kill someone someday just to know what it feels like." Police now had a pretty clear indication of what Aiden's motive for carrying out this act was. When the news that Aiden was going to be trialed as an adult came out, many in the community were divided, saying that it wasn't fair to lock a kid away for the rest of his life. That is, until the details of the case were also shared. Tristan was stabbed 114 times, 49 of them being defensive wounds as the poor girl fought for her life. It was even found that a piece of steel broke off from the knife and was embedded into her skull, which rendered the knife ineffective. This is what likely stopped the attack, or that number could have been significantly higher. It was obvious that the intention here was purely to kill, and suddenly those jumping to Aiden's defense fell silent. There was another twist in the case. Aiden's mother, Crystal Smith, was arrested and charged with a felony count for tampering with evidence. After learning of the charges against her son, she found the jeans he was wearing on the night and decided to try and wash the blood out of them thoroughly. Unfortunately for her, she had installed cameras inside of her residence which captured her attempting to wash away the evidence. Investigators confiscated the footage and ultimately had evidence of her washing the jeans, knowing the implications of doing so. Aiden was still protesting his innocence, and in a rare interview of him talking to his parents, admitted he kissed the girl but denies doing anything else.
What were you doing outside that late at night?
I was at Trey's house hanging out with him.
Did you kiss or do anything with this girl?
Be honest as you can to them.
Two.
Yes.
Yeah, I kissed her.
Anything further?
By this stage, prosecutors felt they had an airtight case and brought a charge of first-degree premeditated murder against Aiden. His initial plea was not guilty. Aiden was to appear via video link at a hearing and appeared to be disoriented, and at one point, sounds like he's asking demons not to take his soul.
What you got going on? I don't let you demons. I don't let you demons take my soul. You demons want to take my soul away. I don't let you demons steal my soul. I don't know what's going on. I see you first. What's going on? What you got going on? Why am I here? I just want to talk to my mom and dad. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
It seems like this was a ploy to gain attention or try to swing the case into pleading for insanity, but none of the prosecutors bought the act. As Aiden sat in a prison cell while the court case was ongoing, he started claiming he was a victim of ongoing torture.
Exclusively right now on First Coast News tonight, the St. Johns County teen accused of murdering his middle school classmate claims he is enduring, quote, ongoing torture at the Duval County Jail. Aiden Fucci, who is being charged as an adult in the stabbing death of 13-year-old Tristyn Bailey, is being held in solitary confinement at the jail, according to a new motion filed in the case. Fucci's attorneys say he was placed in solitary because of, quote, threats of violence against him within the jail and for prior disciplinary and action and also suicidal ideation. The motion says solitary confinement amounts to cruel and unusual punishment and will result in psychological harm.
Then came the news that Aiden was attempting to extort other inmates and continually making threats against them.
Tonight, a teenager accused of murdering his 13-year-old classmate has been threatening and extorting other teen inmates, according to jail officials with new material we've just received. According to records obtained by First Coast News, Aiden Fucci has threatened violence against correction officers and other inmates and allegedly bragged about his crime.
Eventually, Aiden and his legal team changed their plea to guilty on February 6th, 2023.
Okay. And Mr. Fucci just wanted to make a short statement.
I just want to say I plead out guilty. And that I'm sorry for the Bailey family and my family.
Okay. Okay. I'm sure that there'll be an opportunity, obviously, at sentencing hearing to speak again at that time. Okay?
Yes, sir.
He was set to be sentenced on March 24th, 2023. Family members were allowed to give victim impact statements before the court, and what they had to say was heartbreaking.
114. This jar now holds 114 stones, one for each of the 114 stab wounds that my sister had to endure.
Every single day, I can't help but wonder what would have happened had I slept on that couch instead, or if I had stayed up later. Tristyn was a 13-year-old. She had a personality brighter than fireworks, and she was being a teenager. But had I slept on that couch that was within earshot of our front door, there's a possibility my little sister could still be alive today.
As later we learned, that friend Tristyn thought she had ambushed our youngest Bailey by stabbing her 114 times. Over and over and over, to the point where we all know, she fought her fight and had nothing left in her body to give. And yet he continued, like an absolute coward. You, Aiden Fucci, decided to overpower a 5'3" innocent 13-year-old girl. How much more of a coward could you possibly be?
Judge R. Lee Smith made a blunt statement about the case.
I would submit that this case is probably the most difficult and shocking case that this county in St. Johns County has dealt with. In the 20 years that I have been, or 16 years that I have been practicing law, and the 30 years that I have lived and worked in this all of Northeast Florida, this case is one of only a very small few that had this level and this type of impact on the community. 114 stab wounds, 49 defensive wounds, 35 wounds to the head and neck, 29 to the back and shoulder, and 6 fatal wounds. This court has reviewed and seen more than its fair share of autopsy photos. The autopsy photos in this particular case were particularly difficult.
Aiden Fucci now received a sentence for the brutal killing of an innocent young girl.
Mr. Fucci, if you and your attorneys would please rise. Counsel, is there any legal reason why this court cannot impose sentence at this time?
No, sir.
Mr. Fucci, having entered a plea of guilty to the crime of first-degree murder, I adjudicate you guilty of the premeditated first-degree murder of Tristyn Bailey. I sentence you to life in prison. Because of your age, you are eligible for review of the sentence in 25 years.
Aiden later released an apology letter to the community. Tristyn's father couldn't help but feel that he didn't mean what he wrote.
During Wednesday's proceedings and the filings at the end of the day, there were several apologies given from Aiden and some members of Aiden's family. foremost to his grandmother, your apology on the stand really touched us. It was the first time anyone in your family had acknowledged it, and we feel for you as we could tell how much you are hurting. With respect to the apology letter from Aiden, from his behavior at court, at no point has his actions fell in line with the letter.
Aiden's mother, Crystal Smith, was also sent to trial and convicted of the tampering with evidence charge. She was sentenced to 30 days in jail for her part in the case. With cases like this, it is the senseless loss of life for no particular reason that baffles most people. Many of us can't comprehend why someone would do such a thing. Out there though, within our world, evil exists, and sometimes it is in the form of a 14-year-old boy. And that wraps up today's case. If you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing. We look forward to bringing you another worst case very soon.